I don't know much about the Aquaman character, but I do know he can talk to fish. Or communicate with fish, for those who get upset when I say he can talk to fish. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the worst superpower ever. Sure, he has super strength, speed, invulnerability and all that, but they hand those superpowers out to so many heroes it's basically standard. It's more surprising when the hero doesn't have super strength. So all that leaves Aquaman is his ability to talk to fish, which has to be the worst ability ever imagined. I mean, he can telepathically communicate with fish, but that doesn't mean they're going to do what he says. And what is the point in talking to fish anyway? Do you really think they've got anything interesting to say? So I went on a quest to find a worse superpower. I searched high and low. The closest I found was a guy who could turn into a door, but even that could be pretty fun. You could turn into a door and stand next to a door. So when someone opens the first door, surprise, it's another door. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood because my brother used to beat the crap out of me with Aquaman when we used to play Injustice. The actual Aquaman character and the guy they had playing him were the best parts of the film. They should have leaned on him more for comedy and sassy one-liners. He carried the film and it was obvious they wrote the script for the actor rather than the actor filling the role of the Aquaman character. Not that that's a bad thing. I don't want to give you the wrong impression, they barely develop him as a character and he has next to no arc, but the guy is very charismatic and he's certainly fun and entertaining. Did anyone ever notice Aquaman's and Bruce Wayne's fathers are both called Thomas?
Why did you say that name?
The child actors were bad. There's a scene where the teenager is training on a beach and he tries to be emotional, and I don't think I've ever cringed so hard in my entire life. The movie is overflowing with the tonal issues and the whole thing is a mess of everything you've already seen before. It has serious political talk and war like it was The Lord of the Rings. There's a number of tensionless action sequences, a scene in a desert that turns into a romantic comedy, the part in Italy turns into Indiana Jones, there's a number of darker horror-esque segments. It never felt like a cohesive whole, but instead like I was watching a 2-hour montage of completely different films. They go full steam into the Chosen One cliche. Not all Atlanteans can talk to fish, only Aquaman can because he's the Chosen One. And they all ride big sea beasts around, even though all the Atlantean people can swim faster than the actual creatures. There's a woman that can control water for some reason. I don't see why. Aren't Atlanteans all the same? Why can't they all do this stuff? It's never explained. And on top of that, she can snap her fingers and the most intricate explosive water stuff happens, but other times she does the smallest thing and it looks like it takes an incredible amount of effort. It's really inconsistent. Then they have those tridents that seem to give the wielder power of some kind, but only the Chosen One can use the ultimate trident, and somehow the ultimate trident gives him a new shirt as well.
Oh, sorry guys, bad news. The toilet's still clogged. That was an ancient relic passed down from my ancestors!
Well, your ancestors didn't know crap about plumbing.
I spent the whole movie trying to figure out how the universe worked. You've got the guy from The Conjuring who is named Gorm or Norm or something. He didn't really have a character besides being the bad guy. There's the Kingdom of the Atlanteans, the Kingdom of the Brine, the Kingdom of Fishmen, the Kingdom of Grindelwald, the Kingdom of the Scribblybog, and Norm wants to unite all the kingdoms and become the leader. So are these kingdoms at war with each other, at peace? Are there tensions? Who cares? The script certainly doesn't. So after Norm has united all the kingdoms, he wants to attack the land people for polluting the oceans. But the Atlanteans discovered unlimited clean energy hundreds of years ago. So if you want the land people to stop polluting, why not share some of that unlimited clean energy? They only pollute because they haven't found a clean energy source yet. What did the sea people do with their waste? Are you telling me the sea people don't have any waste at all?
Inconceivable!
The worst thing about the movie was how terrible the script was. A fair number of the lines were downright laughable, and then there's so much exposition. I'm willing to bet half the lines in the movie are exposition, and it's so boring. It didn't help I could barely understand what people were saying at times. The music was so loud, and then you have all the underwater sound effects going off, then a slight water sound effect on people's voices, and then sometimes you can't see the characters' lips, or they don't even have lips because they're a weird crab thing. And then they're using long, boring exposition speeches with tons of made-up names for locations we haven't seen, we have no knowledge of, and it sounds like gibberish. I counted 4 times where people were talking and then the wall beside them would explode, bad guys would rush in and a fight starts. 4 times. Or maybe 5. They felt almost like jump scares, which is fitting in a way since the director has predominantly made horror movies. The music was overbearing. It was constantly there telling you when the film was being dramatic or emotional or action-packed, and there was no cohesion. There was no uniting theme. When the romantic comedy section started, you get this silly score that feels like it's been stolen from another film. And at one point the characters kiss. Thousands of people and animals are dying all around you, but sure, it's a great time to have a big smooch. The movie is filled with green screen, or possibly blue screen, and it really is off-putting. It makes all of it feel so fake and lifeless, like the Star Wars prequels. On the occasion they do have an actual set, the otherwise constant blue screen effects end up highlighting that it's so very clearly a set and not filmed on location. They had one character with that de-aging effect. It didn't look too bad, I guess. It was nowhere near as good as Guardians of the Galaxy 2, for example, but it looked fine, maybe. It was acceptable so long as you didn't look straight at it. But then they threw the character on some bad blue screen and it looked terrible because everything looked fake at that point. The characters felt uninteresting and one note. Half the cast were only there to spout exposition at the audience. The background to Aquaman himself felt rushed. We see a glimpse at the beginning where he's on a school trip and getting bullied, but the scene is so short and so quickly forgotten I'm not even sure what the purpose of it was. It felt like the filmmakers weren't interested in Aquaman's backstory, which leaves me wondering why they didn't just cut it out. Black Manta was nothing but annoying. He blames Aquaman for the problems he himself caused, and then keeps chasing down Aquaman and achieves absolutely nothing every single time. He was just there for some filler action scenes. They should have just cut him out of the movie. At one point a group of Atlantean elite guard give him high-tech weapons and armor, and then we suffer through a montage as Black Manta breaks down the weapons and armor to make his own suit. But how did he know to do all this? He's fiddling around with a screwdriver, but the high-tech weapons don't even have screws. And you're telling me he did this in less than 24 hours? And are we really meant to believe the Atlantean elite guards stood around outside waiting for him to do all that? I guess so. While we're at it, why doesn't their makeup run underwater? One character is isolated for something like 20 years, and she has perfect nail polish on. There was a lot of enormous set pieces and the effects were mostly good. It was very bright with vibrant colours. I do think a big chunk of it was lots of bright colours without a unifying colour scheme, but it still looked good. There's a lot of war in the movie, but without much character behind it. It was like watching The Return of the King, but take out Aragorn, Frodo and Gandalf and anyone else you might care about. Just 2 CGI armies fighting with no likeable characters, so the audience has nothing to invest in or care about. It failed to engage me in any way. At least 80% of the time I didn't know which army was fighting who and what exactly was going on. But it did look nice. It was an incoherent mess with some nice visuals. I really enjoyed the sequence with the flares on the boat, and the following scenes in the cavern with the tentacle thing were fantastic. On a visual level they were great. I found the high points of Aquaman to be more entertaining than Wonder Woman, but the bad parts were worse than Wonder Woman. I didn't think much of Wonder Woman, but it was at least consistent. Aquaman is up and down all the way through. The opening is terrible, but then there's the scene on the submarine right after, which is great. Aquaman is overly dramatic, very cheesy in parts, and a complete mess of a story. The world building was so bad it was on the level of Black Panther. None of the world made any sense, and it was always inconsistent. So I suppose it was consistently inconsistent. So you've got that going for you, which is nice. Throw into the mix a whole bunch of cliches, not least the Chosen One cliche, which is my most hated cliche of all time. On the other hand, it had some nice visuals, and Jason
Moam!
he's enjoyable enough. At one point they have a CGI octopus playing the drums. I think if you can accept that, you'll enjoy the film. If you're not too concerned with story or character and want some overblown action set pieces, I'm sure you'll love it. However, I value story and characters highly, so I would rate this a 3 out of 10. I'd consider that a high 3 though, because the film does have a few fun things that redeem it slightly. I wouldn't want to watch it again, it was very dull. It's a dull mess. Aquaman isn't a polished turd, but it's not a diamond in the rough either. It's more like a slightly smooth stone. Yeah, well done DC, you've entered the Stone Age. But then I saw the dinosaurs, so I changed my rating to a 10 out of 10. That's Dinosaurs' best film ever.